Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob, I'll be your host. And in the past, I've done some videos where I've talked about some properties that should have gotten role playing games, but didn't. So I'm going to do that again in this video, but I'm going to make it solely about cartoons from when I was a kid. So a lot of these will be older cartoons. Because, nowadays we got role playing games for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Power Rangers. Even My Little Pony has its own dedicated role-playing game. And what I mean by dedicated role-playing game is official role-playing games that were made and mass-produced and so forth. Some of these I'm going to talk about. I know some people have homebrewed their own rules and used other rules to play these properties as a role-playing game. But there's no official role-playing game for any of these properties, as far as I know. So we're going to talk about them. Now, I have a list written up, and on my list, I have 5 cartoons that should have gotten dedicated role-playing games, and I got 2 honorable mentions. One of these honorable mentions I mentioned in another video, but it pertains to this list, so we're going to mention it again. So my first honorable mention is He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the cartoon debuted in 1983, and it had 130 episodes split up amongst 2 seasons. Now, the reason why it's only an honorable mention is in the 80s, a company known as FASA, they're the ones that gave us Shadowrun and Battletech, had the rights to do a game for Master of the Universe, and they did bring out a game that they called a role-playing game. But it was more of a board game, kind of a miniatures game, sort of, and which you got to play characters from the cartoon show, and that was the role-playing element of it. So then years later, another company got the rights, and they almost brought out a role-playing game for Masters of the Universe, but suddenly you didn't hear nothing about it, and the game never came out. I know it exists, but it never came out, so that's why Masters of the Universe only gets an honorable mention. My second honorable mention is Challenge of the GoBots. Challenge of the GoBots, its cartoon, debuted in 1984, and it had 65 episodes split up amongst 2 seasons. Now, the GoBots were another toy line of robots that transformed into vehicles, and they were the competition for Transformers at the time, and they had their own cartoon show. Well, after the GoBots kind of went away, Tonka, the company that made GoBots, were bought out by Hasbro. So Hasbro owned the rights to GoBots. And over the years, they've sort of tried to incorporate the GoBots into the Transformers line. They've had a few lines that they've called GoBots. And they've also had some of the named GoBots appear as Transformers. But they never went full into it. So, since there's a Transformers role-playing game, technically there's sort of a GoBots role-playing game, but GoBots aren't really a part of Transformers, but they kind of are, so there isn't a GoBots role-playing game. You can figure it out, so that's why they're left with just an honorable mention. The first cartoon show on my list does not have any toy line whatsoever, and people to this day still want toys for this cartoon. But it had nothing to sell other than itself. And that is Thundar the Barbarian, which aired in 1980 and had 21 episodes split up amongst 2 seasons. Thundar the Barbarian takes place in the future and is a post-apocalyptic story. There was a comet that sailed between the Earth and the Moon, destroying the Moon and devastating the Earth. And all these creatures wound up showing up because of it. And hundreds of years later, Thundar the Barbarian is now traveling, righting the wrongs with his companions Ariel the Sorceress and Ukla the Mock. And Thundar the Barbarian would make a great setting for a role-playing game. But there isn't one, so it's on my list. The second thing on my list is a cool one. It's called The Inhumanoids, and its cartoon aired in 1986 and had 13 episodes over one season. Now, The Inhumanoids was a toy line where these eldritch horrors were trying to take over the world, and there was these guys in these specially designed suits that were trying to stop it. Sound kind of familiar, doesn't it? So maybe a certain modern day movie took inspiration here, but anyway, they didn't fight them in giant mech suits. They were just like suits of armor that the people wore. And there were other creatures running around. But it was a pretty cool show. And what's interesting about this is when the cartoon first came out, each of the episodes were cut up into smaller segments, and they aired it with other segmented cartoons each Saturday. Well, eventually they gave it its own run, and so they added a full 13 episodes to it and fused together the cut up ones into episodes. But by the time it got its own season, the toy line was canceled, so there was nothing for them to sell. They knew they were not going to get a second season, and the toy line weren't putting an iron grasp on what they could do with the cartoon show. So they had a lot of freedom to do what they wanted to. And it's one of the only cartoons that were out to sell a toy line that actually was capable of wrapping itself up in the end. And it did it pretty good. And they even left a little cliffhanger just in case something smiled on them and they got a second season. And I think they almost did, but they didn't. But it would definitely have a lot of good elements in it for a role-playing game. Third thing on my list is called Sectars, Warriors of Symbion. And its cartoon aired in 1985, and it only had its first 5 episodes air. Not even a full season. And most of these cartoon shows that were coming out to Hawk Toys, they had a 5-part episode to get the ball rolling. And the Sectars had that, but then nothing after that. The Sectars is basically an insect world. It was our world, scientists screwed something up, and everybody turned into insect people, and all the animals became insect animals. It's really weird, but it would make a neat setting for a role-playing game, but none exists. Now, my last 2 things are going to be weird ones. My number 4, the first weird one, is Rainbow Bright. It aired in 1984 and had 13 episodes split up amongst 2 seasons. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are saying, why would you say Rainbow Bright would make a great role-playing game? But hear me out. In the cartoon, Rainbow Bright came to the planet to restore color and happiness. The world was in dread, and it was all gloomy and gray, and she was here to restore things. So there's a role-playing element there. Your characters could be others that have come to Earth to help Rainbow Bright or whatever, to restore color and happiness to the world. So there's an element there that would work. But it's also weird, and I thought it'd be great to include. My last one is really weird, but would be great if you wanted to get kids into role-playing games. And that is The Care Bears. It aired in 1985 and had 11 episodes broken up into 22 segments over one season. And each episode would air 2 segments. Now, The Care Bears are these cute anthropomorphic bears of bright color that had pretty symbols on their bellies, and they go around protecting kids and trying to make the world a happier place to be. So there's some stuff there that'd be great for a children's role-playing game. But I included it to be a kid's role-playing game, but I also included it for something weird. We can also go in a dark place with this, because you see, in the aforementioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing game, they had an adventure called the Terror Bears, which was an evil version of the Care Bears who were going around inspiring fear. And so, anyway, when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game ended, they turned the game into a game called After the Bomb. And After the Bomb was a setting inside the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So Palladium, the game company that made Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, please take the Terror Bears and make it its own game, because who wouldn't want to play an evil Care Bear going around inspiring fear? And that is my weird list of cartoons that should have had role-playing games. Thank you for joining me in what is probably an insane rambling, and hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.